So thank you for joining our today's webinar. Our topic for today, CSP billing made easy, simplify and scale your billing process. So what have we prepared for you today? So we start with a little introduction of us. Second, we give also an introduction about Singhammer and DICE, and then we start right into the topic. So what's the current status and what's the issue for BC partners about CSP billing? Then, of course, we'll start our demo, and then you can see the process behind and what's the concept of Microsoft subscription billing and CSP billing. And point 5, we will look at what's new. And of course, at the end, a Q&A where you're very welcome to ask your questions. We'll turn on the microphones for the Q&A round. So who are the speaker for you for today? Martin, maybe you can start as the presenter of the demo.
Of course, a quick introduction from my side. I'm Martin. I'm working as a BC and DICE consultant at Singhammer, doing, like most of you guys, I assume, business central implementation projects and taking care of our customers, and also helping Anna out with the whole partner business at Singhammer.
Perfect.
My name is Toby. Yeah, my name is Toby. I'm the product owner of the DICE portfolio, and the subscription and recurring billing that was sold to Microsoft a couple of years ago, and for the new feature suite for subscription billing.
Thank you, Toby. Yeah, and some words about me. I'm Anna. I'm the partner manager at Singhammer, so I'm responsible for the entire partner channel. I joined Singhammer in 2024, and yeah, I'm responsible for the entire channel from sales, marketing, and strategic enablement. Okay, Singhammer and what is DICE? I don't know if you know us, so I give you a little introduction. We are 75 people in New Munich in our beautiful office. We've been on the market more than 25 years, and we've delivered more than 300 projects in the IT vertical. For our Singhammer apps, we have right now more than 30,000 users, and are proud of that. This includes our on-prem solution and also our cloud solution, DICE. As I already said, we have vertical or a deep focus on the IT industry. And also this includes software developers, IT consultancies, but also managed service providers or system integrators. But we also have this focus on other professional services. We have an international network of implementation partners. It's growing worldwide, and right now we have more than 25 partners, and really happy about that. Our DICE portfolio, so we have 5 DICE suites and also 3 standalone products. 2 are more in the professional services area, and 2 are more in the retail sectors for IT resellers. And last but not least, as Toby already mentioned it, we've sold 2 of our apps to Microsoft, and the business DICE subscription billing and DICE usage-based billing is now integrated in the Microsoft Business Central Standard, and that's why we're here today. That's why we feel entitled to have this webinar today about the Microsoft Business Central Standard subscription billing. And now what we would like to start So what makes CSP billing so challenging? I think that's the first thing we want to shed a light on. And so Martin, maybe you could start with that.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Anna. Yeah, before we jump into the system and the use case, we would like to address what makes CSP or usage-based billing so challenging. And the challenge itself, it doesn't start in your billing system. The thing or in the nature of the usage-based billing, it starts with how providers structure their usage data and how the complex can be regarding the invoicing process. So what's the underlying logic? So so as you know, there is various billing bases. So it can be consumed quantity, for example, if you're thinking about hosting in gigabyte, terabyte, whatever it is. It can be users, it can be a number of instances. So you get a whole lot of different information which you want to invoice at the end of the day. And it is open to the provider which information it is used for invoicing. Besides that, of course, as it is the nature of the deal within a usage-based billing, the quantity can change within the month. For example, if an end customer adds users or removes users within the month, which is invoiced, which makes it quite complex because, for example, you can have 10 users starting at the month, then he adds 2 users, and at the end of the month he removes 3, and all of these things needs to be addressed within the invoicing. Also, depending on the provider, but it is possible that already invoiced period is rebuilt when, for example, the users change. So, for example, you do invoicing upfront and you estimate a number of users, which is maybe 20, and the usage data shows that it only has been 18, then of course you need to handle that case that you only invoice the 18, or if it has been more, that you can work with those deltas. A lot of providers also have frequent price changes, which makes it quite hard to keep up to date. So basically, only because, for example, a Microsoft license is priced for X euros today, it doesn't mean it is still tomorrow. So that is also a challenge which needs to be addressed. And on top of that, there is a lot of times that you have logic between the items you're selling or reselling, or you're adding something, that you have bundles or packages at the end of the day that are logically connected. So for example, if the Business Central or the amount of Business Central licenses changes, then the number of licenses of your product, for example, needs to change as well. And last but not least, within usage-based billing, it can get quite complex regarding pricing, which means, for example, if there is overusage, if there is inclusive volumina, price tiers, that are all things that are out there and that you obviously need to cover, that you can invoice the correct amounts towards your customers. And the good news is all of these topics are either addressed with a Microsoft subscription billing, which comes with Business Central Standard, or our DICE feature suite for subscription billing, with which Toby will explain to you later on. All right, now we'll jump into the system and I'll take over the screen. So what you see now is basically a real companion invoice. Of course, I changed the data that there is no real customer data in there, but it is a real invoice, or the basis is a real invoice, and I've just created demo data, so demo customers that we don't show real data in here, but the invoice, besides that, I didn't change anything. And you see we have different invoicing periods in here. We have different products and we have usage data and a whole lot of different amounts, information, all this stuff that Companion provides in this case. And at the end of the day, me as a Business Central user, I want to import the data into Business Central and create invoices as smoothly as possible. To do so, we jump into the usage data imports. And to create a new import based on that file I just showed you, I can use new import and file, select the file, which has been that one. And then Business Central creates a new import with me that is already connected with the CSV I've just uploaded. And as I have multiple suppliers within that system, I have to provide the information which provider I'm using. In this case, it's Compendial. And then I'm good to go. I can add a description if I want to, but that's just optional. And at the end of the day, I can process the data, which takes a second because now the CSV file I've just uploaded is checked. In the first step, it is checked how many lines can be created based on the import, which in this case is 33 lines. And as a result of the import, I get 66 usage data billing lines. Why 66? Because for my demo, I prepared the use case that we are invoicing the Microsoft products towards our customers, but also we are purchasing them at Compendial in that case. So we always have a pair of customer and vendor information. That is why we have 66 usage data billing lines and only based on 33 lines that we have imported. And as you can see here, we have the information about which product we're invoicing for which period of days and which quantity, what's the cost amount. So all the information is basically there. And the next step would be that I can create an invoice. If I want to create invoices only for the usage data I've imported, I'm able to do so directly from this page. But let's assume you want to have a overall billing process, or you have mixed contracts where, for example, your own products come in place as well, or some additional fee that is not invoiced based on usage data. That is why you also can use the standard recurring billing page, which comes with the subscription billing app as well. And the billing template in this case filters to the contracts I'm using. And when I create a billing proposal, then I'll see all of the contracts which apply to my billing template. And with one click, I can create documents for all of these contracts. Of course, I need to set a document and a posting date, and I can define whether I want to post the invoices straight away or create unposted invoices. In this case, we are good to go and want to post these invoices straight away. And I can define whether I want to create an invoice per contract or a collective invoice for either contract partner or invoice recipient. In this case, I want to create a document per contract, so we're good to go. Hit OK, and now Business Central carries out what I've told them. So now we are creating invoices, and those are posted straight away. And as a result, I see the billing template is empty and all of my data has been processed. And when I go back into my usage data import, just to give you an impression that the data is also populated, I see in the usage data that the referring usage data has been invoiced, and I see which posted invoice has been the result and which line number has been used to invoice the imported usage data. The second line is empty. That is acceptable and is caused because I've trusted the customer side now. And in reality, we will have or get an invoice of Compendial in that case, and to keep things easy for the understanding. So it doesn't matter if we use the process I'm showing now or if the invoice is created up front. So now I've jumping into the vendor contract, which is used for the vendor side. And I can create the contract invoice either coming from the vendor contract itself, but you can also work or connect vendor contract lines into a existing invoice, so it doesn't have to work that way. And when we create the invoice on the vendor side, then we see as a result there is also all of the invoice data that we've just created. Of course, I need a vendor invoice number that I can post it, because the system is set up that way. And when I post that invoice, then you will not be surprised that we also populate that data back to the usage data we've just imported. And now I see, okay, also the vendor side is covered by the posted invoice with that number, and I can jump directly into that invoice if necessary. All right, that was the process in a real quick and smooth way. So basically the question is, what is necessary that it works in that way? So first of all, we need a usage data supplier. And the usage data supplier defines, first of all, so we use Companion as an example. So first of all, based on a supplier level, it is defined whether the unit price for the sales prices comes from the import or Business Central master data is used. And besides that, you can define whether you want to be able to create customer references and supplier subscriptions based on the import. And if you don't, or you can access the backend, or the data can be provided using an API, you can also get rid of the CSV file I've just imported by setting this process without usage data blobs set up to yes. Then the system is able to directly, or you can import the usage data directly using the API and the referring page. And most important regarding the supplier setup is the connection to the data exchange definition, because the data exchange definition defines, first of all, which columns I am importing. So for example, and which information is stored in that column, and what kind of data is stored in there. So for example, the subscription ID is a text field, while a quantity is a decimal field. And if you have a decimal or text date field, then you need to also give the system the information about the date formatting culture and the date format. And besides that, it is also defined which field from your so which column from the import is mapped to which field in our table we're using. The table we're using is the usage data generic import, so it's always table 8018. And as you can see here, so for example, the column company name is matched to the customer name from that table. And as you know, there is transformation rules in Business Central standards. So for example, in the file I'm getting from Companion, I have not only the date, but date and time stamp for the date fields. And Business Central expects a date field. That is why I use a transformation rule to transform the data in a way that Business Central can handle it, which is highly recommendable. So that is, first of all, the necessary setup regarding the supplier. Besides that, of course, Business Central needs to know what we want to invoice. That is why we need items we want to invoice. And in that case, I had, just to give you an impression, I used, for example, this item, so 1072, which is a Microsoft 365 Exchange Online Plan 1. So in this case, as it is only a subscription item, the subscription option is a subscription item, and the subscription package I assigned is a subscription package which brings the flag that it is that the recurring subscription must be invoiced based on usage data. And when I define so, I can define which usage-based pricing should be applied. And just to give you an idea about the options we are covering, or Business Central Standard is covering, we jump into the subscription package itself. Because we have three different options. We have a usage quantity, which is the most common one. So basically the usage data you are importing, so the quantity is directly passed on into the invoice. So for example, if you import 10 users, then the amount for the invoice will be 10. Then we have fixed quantity as an option, which is known, for example, for contracts where you just define, you, for example, always show the number of 1 in the invoice, but the price and the quantity changes in the background. So, for example, based on consumption, you still show 1 managed service, but if the customer uses 400 gigabyte, it's more expensive than he only uses 300 gigabytes. And unit cost surcharge is the third option, which is then applicable if you, for example, want to have always a surcharge of 12% based on what your vendor is invoicing towards you. And then the system just takes the costs, adds the percentage you're defining, and then you're good to go. And that will be the basis for your invoicing. Besides that, you can define references based on an item level and on the customer level. So basically, for example, in this case, the vendor is in that case Companion, and I've created a reference for the usage data supplier reference. So basically, it's a table in the background. And if we jump in here, we see that for the supplier Companion, this product is linked to the supplier reference to that value, which means if you import that value as supplier reference, Business Central automatically detects that it is the product 1072, so it is Exchange Online Plan 1. This is especially helpful if an error appears, or if, for example, the customer books Exchange Online for himself and you just get the usage data and need to extend the contract. Because if we jump back into the usage data imports, we come to the last part, because obviously we want to see how this looks in reality. So when we jump back into the usage data billing we've just used, we jump into the subscription. And within the subscription, we see this subscription is based on the item I've just showed you. And we see we have 2 subscription lines, which are based or flagged as usage-based billing. In this case, we are using usage-based quantity, so the usage quantity for the invoicing. And we have a supplier reference entry number, which is in this case entry number 737. But in the table behind the ID, we see that the subscription reference number 737 basically is linked to the supplier Companion type subscription and this supplier reference number. So this needs to be unique for the system. And whether it is just numerical or alphanumerical, it doesn't matter. So the most important thing is that it needs to be unique. And this is used for the matching of the subscription lines and the imported data. And at the end of the day, of course, you want to see how the usage data develops. And that is why if you bill on usage data, then we have, or Business Central provides the usage data overview, which shows you in this case, filtered to that subscription coming from all the usage data we are importing or we have imported. So basically you see for the period from 21st of January to 27th of February, we had a quantity of 8, which had been invoiced for the period of 31 days. And with the second import, I have now starting from 28th of February to 27th of March, I have a quantity of 10 for the period of 28 days. And that is, so you have a log how the usage data develops, and the usage data metadata provides the information if it is rebilling. So for example, if something in February occurs, another license, then you could import that using the same supplier reference ID, and then it would be flagged as rebilling because the time frame has already been invoiced, but there's new data for that time frame. And this is also information that you can show within the invoice. That is especially helpful when you have changes in the quantity within one invoiced period. And last but not least, from a process perspective, there's two ways. Basically, you can either use Business Central to create the subscription upfront. When you create it upfront, the supplier reference entry number will be empty, but Business Central provides a page which enables you to connect the supplier subscription to the subscription within Business Central. So this has to be carried out once that this reference is established within the subscription. And Business Central supports in that way that it is shown which subscriptions are available for to be connected to a import, so to the supplier subscription. If you have the use case that the customer, for example, has an online portal or an online shop where he can increase or decrease or buys new stuff on its or for his for itself, then you can also extend the contract directly coming from the import. So that would be it from a system side. And we're going back into the slides. So what are the things that I want you to take away with you after or from that webcast? So first of all, as usual, data is everything. In that case, usage data. Because the file I showed you up front was a real companion file. And in this case, you have seen it has been a very clean CSV file, so there has been no additional text lines or totals. And that is the thing that BC expects. And in some cases, or in most of the cases, or would frame it other way, I would always recommend if your distributor provides you a file which includes totals or text or additional lines, it's always worth asking if he can create a file which does not include those rows, because we try to avoid having to customize the import before we can process the data. The recommendation there is to use transformation rules as far as possible, because having to adapt the Excel file before the CSV file before you import it is always a pain and kind of a break within the process. As I showed you, references can be linked to items and customers, and of course, from a technical perspective, only the supplier reference, which is linked to the subscription line, would be sufficient, but it helps a lot to identify data when errors occur or when there is new data, to make it as human readable as possible. And that is where references come in place. And I mean, they can be imported. So it makes life just a lot easier for the user. So it's worth the effort. And last but not least, when you're testing and setting up the process, it's not only a thing of setting up the technical things like the data exchange definition, but also from a process perspective, please define a clear process and responsibilities, and also check which kind of invoicing you want to do. So if it is only usage-based invoicing, you can start directly from or create the invoices directly for the from the import page. But if you have mixed contracts or you want to have an overall process, then it's worth thinking about using the recurring billing worksheet. And a structured process is, as in every other part, essential for automating the invoicing process, which is possible with the subscription billing standard app as well.
So this is now my part. Thank you, Martin, for demoing this. So what's new? And what is like besides of that? Because what you showed just before was the plain Business Central standard. This is what we handed over to Microsoft, I think like 2 years ago almost. And this was based on our experience in the IT industry. And when the usage-based billing as a methodology came up, what about 10 years ago? We had to find a way to make this processable, and we did this in our legacy on-prem solution. And we, since this was obviously that this was plays an important role in the future. Back in the day, we said, okay, we definitely want to do this in our new product portfolio. And when Microsoft approached us, showing interest in these apps, it was clear to us that we will include this in the whole part that is now the BC standard and the subscription billing module in Business Central. So, but we knew from the start that there are specifics that we won't ship to Microsoft because they were either not like finished yet, or since this is the worldwide standard, we didn't see as relevant for everyone out there. But on the other hand, we want to make sure that people who needs this can use this. And these features that I'm talking about, we bundled them into one of these app suites that Anna was talking in her introduction, and we call it the feature suite for subscription billing. So it's basically a collection of features that build on top of the BC standard work as an add-on. And the core of it is different or additional pricing models, because in the SaaS world, it's quite common that we have not only the Business Central standard pricing, but also something that we call flat tier pricing or true tier pricing, which is basically two-tier pricing models that behave a little bit differently, that you could also use in like for selling subscriptions upfront in kind of like buckets, quantity buckets, or in frames, and then of course use them for like additional processes for like after selling, or if you want to like build usage data based and apply these methods there, these pricing methods. So this is where we jump in. And what Martin also mentioned earlier was that if you have like combine a service that you buy from an external supplier with your own service, and you bundle this as a new product, you need to somehow show this to the recipient, to the customer. And this is what our bundling feature can do for you. And maybe you also need an extended description to describe more details to this, what's included in the bundle without showing the components. And these two features work pretty closely together. And what Martin also was mentioning earlier was where to get these. I mean, if you know that there's so many like price lists, you have so many items in there. Like if you think of the Microsoft price list or from other suppliers, you don't want to type this in all manually and then make sure that the references are right. And that's why we created a price list import feature where you can import these price lists, and you can define, okay, does this price list already provide these product references, or can these be like combined, like from the Microsoft price list, you have 7 like parts, and you need to combine it into one reference. So this is done then automatically during import and the creation of the item. And once the usage data comes in and you process it, and there's something new in there, then this reference can help you identify the item that you need to use for extending the contract. And of course, there are always some improvements to be made regarding usability. For example, assigning contracts upfront already in the sales process, where the subscription should land in the end. And so this is like, there may be even more to come. But it's basically circling around the core of the billing, of the pricing, and it basically works as an add-on. Of course, the BC standard works without it, but this makes it easier at some point if you need these features. So if you want to take a deeper look in that, you could check out our website. On the website for this feature suite, there's also a link to the documentation. The documentation is publicly available online, so there are more details even there, and it's always up to date. So you can take a look there and see if this is relevant for you.
Thank you so much
Good.
for joining. I think
Thank you very much.
we're quite quickly with the webinar, and have a good day and have a good weekend. Goodbye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.